I did want to mention the Biden administration and what's going on. There was a recent article that came out from a former staffer. This is a New Yorker article named Andrea Flores, who had been doing immigrant advocacy work from beforehand and was very exciting when she actually joined the National Security Council under Biden. Prestigious role. And she was specifically tasked, I think, with rolling back some of these Trump era policies. We'll look at what those are. Sadly, though, she did leave recently. In the past fall, this article just came out this week. She left the administration and other high profile departures followed. According to 3 current and former administration officials, the resistance to easing Trump era restrictions came from the very top of the White House chain of command. Ron Klain, chief of staff, Susan Rice, head of domestic policy council, Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor. Quote, none of them is an immigration expert, one of the officials told me. Quote, the immigration experts who were brought in, all those people like Andrea Flores, are not the ones controlling the policy direction. That should tell you something right there. The ones who are at the highest level are political people, i.e., whenever Republicans make a big stink about the border and they go and they take pictures, these are the ones who are like, oh no, we must shift our policy based on how they're making us look bad. So a little bit more from what she tried to do and successfully did. So her first task was to, this is Andrea Flores again, one of the, fulfill one of Biden's explicit promises on the campaign trail to end a policy called migrant protection protocols started under Trump, which had forced more than 60,000 migrants to wait in Mexico after they applied for asylum at the border. In effect, migrants who had fled violence and poverty in their home countries had become stuck in some of the most dangerous parts of Mexico, where criminals and extortionists targeted them with impunity. During the next 7 months, Flores orchestrated a process that allowed 13,000 migrants, many of whom had spent the better part of 2 years in makeshift encampments, to enter the U.S. And she says, or an administration official says, no one heard about it because it ran so smoothly. And another official said, this was how government was supposed to work. Andrea was in charge, and it was beautiful to watch. So it's like, cool, great, 13,000. That's not nobody. People were living in encampments. That's amazing. So then what happened? Well, the politicians, I guess, took over. And before she could finish the job, she was called off of it. I'm going to summarize this instead of reading it, but 2 Republican attorneys sued the Biden administration, and the Justice Department appealed, and Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, issued a memo laying out the case for why this policy should be terminated. But ultimately, a conservative Fifth Circuit judge court basically was like, no, you have to reinstate this policy because of this lawsuit. And Flores says that Biden basically complied. Like, it was like, okay, well, we tried, and she says, why launch it before you devise a new and creative housing solution for migrants? Why launch it before you have a case oversight mechanism? Like, why reinstate this policy? You could comply with the court potentially, but why not introduce a solution instead of just reinstating this awful policy that are currently has people, like we saw, Haitian migrants under bridges, in encampments, in really dangerous areas. So,
do you want me to answer that?
Oh, please.
Because Democrats are just as bad and brutal on immigration as Republicans are. Yeah. Our first wall came under Carter back in the day. Damn. And then the first big wall that, we know of in our current time was created by Clinton. And then Obama was the deporter in chief. The deal is Democrats like to talk game on immigration when they're running for office. And then when they get in office, they view people like Miss Flores, who knows a lot about immigration and a lot about how to bring in asylum seekers and run checks and make sure the country is safe, while at the same time being humane. They view her and other people like her as soft-hearted, bleeding liberals who want to bring in everybody, and that's not the case. So they have a bit of that all or nothing thinking that the Republicans do, of whether it's either open borders or closed borders. The fact of the matter is the Democrats will never be as brutal as the Republicans and the Border Patrol wants them to be. but they will continue to try and do it by giving them raises or doing what like Mayorkas did by going to the border and putting on a Border Patrol jacket with a badge and trying to look like he loves the Border Patrol. But the Border Patrol is not having it. And CBP is not having it.
Can you
That's the problem that the Democrats have. So
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the same thing that they have on passing any basic policy, right? It's like, well, ultimately, they don't believe in it, so there's that. And number
yeah.
two, they're too busy giving concessions out to the far right and
Mm-hmm.
Republicans like Joe
Mm-hmm.
Manchin or whomever, like going and having
Mm-hmm.
photo ops to people who will never love them and will never
Mm-hmm.
get on board with them. Now, my question to you is at this point, I've looked at what CBP has done and I'm like, this is an out of control entity. These
Mm-hmm.
guys are above the law. Not
Yep.
even their president can rein them in. And I
Yep.
feel like we saw that when Haitian migrants were whipped on
Yes.
horseback and the administration no idea what to do about it.
That was
Completely
completely out
flat-footed.
of control. I went down there from a request from some Haitian leaders to be there just to observe and watch that. And that's the feeling that I got is that the Border Patrol helped create the situation of the Haitians under the bridge. They helped exasperate it. And at the same time, when former Chief Scott was told to resign by the Biden administration, that was seen as a big slap in the face to the Border Patrol to put Raul Ortiz. The Border Patrol agents don't respect Raul Ortiz, as
Hmm.
you saw recently with where they were yelling at him. So the chief of the Border Patrol has lost all control of the Border Patrol right now. The Border Patrol is being run by the Border Patrol Union, and
Union. Oh, fun.
yeah, they
I
are
can only
they are
imagine a police union on steroids.
they are completely 100% devoted to Trump. And so all of these right wing press announcements and the leaking of meetings between Mayorkas and agents and all this that's all being orchestrated by the union. The union technically is illegal right now because before Trump left office, he designated them as a security agency, and I have to look at it. But under 5 USC 7112, if a law enforcement agency is designated as a security agency, they cannot have a bargaining unit. Trump also gave the Border Patrol union, they used to have 18,000 hours a year collectively to work on union issues because all the union representatives are agents themselves.
Right.
Trump changed it to like 250,000 hours. So
What?
they are working to sabotage this administration, whether they agree with them or not. And everything you're seeing from the Haitians under the bridge to everything that we're seeing today going on, all this is being orchestrated by the union. Because technically, the Border Patrol management cannot have anything to do with the union, so they can say, we don't know what's going on. But all these press release statements and everything are actually coming from union agents.
Holy shit.
But Biden will not get rid of them because Biden doesn't want to appear anti-union or anti-law enforcement.
Oh, of
But,
course not.
we could ask the FBI agents how they feel about that because the FBI is not allowed to have a bargaining unit. It's bizarre, isn't
Yeah,
it?
like no, that is chilling. That is, and
Mm-hmm.
it so perfectly speaks to once again like what we talk about a lot on this show and generally the dynamic of like, oh yeah, the right knows exactly what they're doing. They've got all their
Yeah.
judges in places, they've got all their, their unions in places, they got their people, they're weaving a web for you and a trap to fall into. The
Mm-hmm.
Democrats, no clue. Like no
Yeah.
clue what web they're weaving. They're just weaving it around themselves and they're tied up in their own knots. And like it doesn't help that that there's never been a commitment even from the Democrats to actual human rights, to actual fixing like there's never been a commitment to human rights and there's never been a commitment to fixing the broken immigration system, whether it's
Right.
staffing the immigrant justice system properly, whether it's whatever, developing a pathway to citizenship, any of that stuff. The last thing is Title 42 started by Trump, basically asylum seekers, you can, like, sorry, there's a pandemic that we don't actually believe in, but now we do, because if it's against any migrants, we believe in it. So Title 42 bars anyone from seeking asylum because of the extenuating circumstances of a global pandemic. Um, Biden's continued it. That
I
has not
know.
stopped. And it's only gotten, I mean, it's gotten a lot worse. I just want to, the Haitian migrants who've been deported en masse, not just from the folks under the bridge, but many different places have been deported back to probably one of the most unstable countries in the world at the moment,
Hmm.
which is Haiti. But this is actually just from this week and in these times. A lot of the people who were refugees and asylum seekers who were outside under in these tents, are they're like currently still in. This is an article called Mexico's Become a Roofless Prison for Haitian Refugees. They're currently still in Mexico. Um, and this is part of the remain in Mexico policy, right? That is terrifying and is not helping anyone. I'm not going to totally read all these because they don't fit with exactly what I want, what we're basically saying. But essentially, under the Biden administration, Title 42's policy, initiated by Trump, has made thousands of Haitian migrants seeking asylum were simply expelled back to Haiti or southern Mexico. In addition to Title 42, the Biden administration is also restarting Trump's infamous Remain in Mexico program, whereby migrants must wait in Mexico until they're approved, and expanding it to include Haitians. So those seeking safety remain in limbo. The Let me just get this straight. Migrant protection protocols, that's the Remain in Mexico policy, correct? The MPP and the Remain
Correct.
in Mexico, that's the same thing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like we just talked about, restarting MPP and then not doing anything about Title 42. Jen, I've taken up enough of your time. Just your final chapter of the book, the one where you paint a picture of rainbows and
Hmm.
lollipops and all the beautiful things. And what are the steps that we have to do in your mind, to reform, to remake, to abolish, whatever your thoughts are, when it comes to Border Patrol currently? We've gone over a lot of it, but what's your vision? What is your hope of hopes?
I started this journey of looking at my own actions as an agent and my own prejudices probably around 2015 I started doing it. And I finished my book recently, and in the end I come out on the side of abolition of the Border Patrol. And it's not that I believe I, I understand the concept of open borders, but I don't believe in our society and the way we're structured, at least currently with climate change and everything, that we can have something like that. But I believe that the Border Patrol has shown and proven itself that is so corrupt that it cannot be reformed. You cannot reform this, is what most people say. And so I think that there needs to be uh, a more humanitarian with a law enforcement side to it, kind of like the Bureau of Land Management or Park Police has. That's what I envision more for the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
And then also, as far as for migrants and asylum and refugees, we have to actually have an asylum system, because believe it or not, an asylum system that is actually open and works and checks people and encourages people to come and be inspected is a national security issue.
Yeah.
You cannot have national security without an open, robust, and effective asylum system. So, what the Biden administration is doing right now is they are just digging a hole deeper, and the Republicans are watching them do that, because you have over a year's worth of Trump people from the Trump refugees sitting on the southern border waiting to come across. You have then this last year of the Biden administration. So you've got 2 years of people waiting to come across and then giving up and crossing illegally and being sent back and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's why you have such large numbers. You have a backlog of people because you have
Yeah.
shut down the asylum system. What we are doing right now is shooting ourselves in the foot. We have to
Yeah.
have a robust asylum system where we inspect everybody, and those who come across, we help them, we give them the best tools that we can to become productive citizens within our country. And the ones that come that we do records checks that we find are wanted for warrants or who are criminals, the very small percentage of, that's fine. We find out who they are and we deal with them appropriately according to our laws and international laws. We have to have an asylum system, period. Money has to be put into the asylum system, but I don't have hope for it because Biden and all these other Democrats take money from the same war machines, the companies that have done the war on drugs, that have done the war on terror, and now we're doing the war on the border and on the immigrants.
Yes.
So I don't have much hope for it.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.